Hey everyone. I'm going to give you guys a warning up front. I'm going to do a little bit here about what I typically do. Then I want to do a commentary afterwards. So if you don't want to listen to that, you can stop after I do my first bit here. But what I wanted to talk about is leftovers. Now, I do 3D printing, and every time the printer kicks off, it does a calibration. As part of that calibration, and this happens on both printers, but this is mostly on the uh, bigger Creality that I've got, the K2 Plus. It prints out a little bit of filament, does a pattern down one side, and does a little line. And on the other side, it does a line. And it prints out a little narrow, maybe 10 mil wide by maybe a mil thick at most, strip on the other side. And every time I take the plate out, of course, I got to take those off. And of course, when you're doing color changes, it makes a little tower. Towers are important. I know some people will remove them. I like to keep the tower there because that's the first thing it prints. And if there's any leftover filament from the previous color, it'll end up in the tower, giving me a cleaner final print. But what do you do with this stuff, right? Every time I get done, I have to scrape off the little tower. I have to scrape off these little bits on each side. Well, I compost. And in my kitchen, it's just me, so I don't have a lot of food going into this thing. So into that bin go my banana peels and that type of thing. But at the top is a filter. And when I first got it, it worked great. The filter stayed in place, didn't have any problems with it at all. It was as it came. Then I had to replace the filter. And since then, every so often, the filter will just fall out. And it falls into the bin. And typically, it does it when the lid goes down. And I don't see it, right? Because if you're not looking down on the top, you're not going to see that the filter's not in place. I open it up, and I realize the filter's gone, usually after I end up dumping in my residuals from my tea. That point's a little too late. So I was looking at that little strip that's on the side and thinking, well, what could we do with it? Well, there were 3 ways that I thought I could fix my problem here. First way is to just slide this little piece in on either side of the filter. Now, this little composter on each side has 3 little scallops, or 4 little scallops on each side, so 4 little half circles that the filter slides underneath, and that's what holds it in place. And it's only on the 2 sides, left and right, not the top and the bottom. So I thought, well, the first thing I could do is just take that strip and slide it in between the filter and those little scallops, because that way it'll give me more surface area, right? More to hold the filter in place. Option 2, attach it to the filter itself so that when it goes into place, it's there and I don't have to worry about anything slipping. Option 3, attach the little pieces to the composter, and that'll leave it permanent. Okay. Each has its pros and cons, so let's go over those. The one that I've used so far is to just slide it in between the filter and those little half circles. The problem with that is, as it slides in, it can pull the filter a little bit one way or the other, so as you're putting one side in, it kind of pulls the other side out a little bit. And one side did slip out. I'm not sure how or why, but one side slipped out, but the other side did not. And the filter's still in place. It's just that my little piece that I put in there to hold it in place slipped out. Not a big deal. I printing almost every day. I have a bunch of these things already put aside so that I can just cut it to the length that I need and slide it into place. And I can't quite get 2 out of each piece that comes out, but I can get 1 good one out of every piece that comes out of that printer. So the pro is it's easy to use. I can even throw them away every time I pop out the filter, pop that out, pop these out, pop a new filter and slide 2 new pieces in place. But it can't fall out, which has happened, in which case all I have to do is replace it. But that's knowing that the thing fell out, checking for it, etc. Option 2, attaching it to the filter. You'd have to find a way to cement it correctly to the filter. Now, all these methods are going to give you a little less filtration at the top because this is a little wider than what was there. They have these little half circles to give you as much filtration exposure as possible. So you could attach it, and then you could slide it in. And again, not a problem that you have to throw it away with the filter every time you change out the filter. Getting it in that exact spot could be a little tricky because the filter mostly goes all the way across. All right, there's a little bit of gap on each side, so you want to take up that gap a little bit because you don't want it to be as far back in. Otherwise, because then you could get it might slip out even easier, especially because this is a plastic against plastic as opposed to the sticky-ishness of the filter itself, which isn't really sticky. It's just the material on it is a little bit more abrasive. So you have to find adhesive for it, but you will get the benefit. Find the adhesive and you have to figure out how to attach it properly on the filter by measurements. It wouldn't slip off the filter. It might slip out of the container. Again, I'm not really sure. You got plastic on plastic. It might hold it a little better. It might not. But that is a possibility of it. And option 3, and that is to modify the lid of the compost itself by attaching one of these pieces underneath those 4 half circles. The advantage, you don't have to measure it. You're attaching it directly to the device. So you won't have any slippage. The disadvantage, trying to get the filter underneath it might be more tricky now because you might have to compress the edges of the filter even more to get it underneath that extra, even though it's less than a mil, that extra little piece that you've got on each side. And if something happens to those pieces, now it's harder to replace them because it's partially glued. So do I have to cut off a piece and slide a piece in to fix where the other piece is? How do I manipulate that? Depends on how it breaks off or how it comes apart. Again, it's sitting in a composter, so it's going to have whatever vapors are accumulating inside of it, eating away at it. So to me, the most efficient way, especially testing it out right now, is to just slide it in. Do that first method. Take my little pieces and slide them into the side, and it can go into the composter. Now, I use PLA. PLA is a plastic based off of corn. So it's easier to replace that as far as environmentally. And if it goes into the composter, it's not a big deal because they can theoretically compost. Combination of moisture and heat, and etc. to get it to compost correctly. My composting bins are outside in the sun, so they get enough heat during the summer. So this will probably break down fairly easily. But that's the other way to do it. And now, as I said, I wanted to make a little commentary here before I finish this week. What reminds me right now is I smell the neighbors barbecuing things, is we had an outdoor event that I was cooking at, and it was a potluck. Right, so everybody brought some food, and I had brought some food, but I was usually the designated cook on the grill. And somehow this woman came in with these supposedly cheap hot dogs that take about 20 minutes to cook. And the reason they took 20 minutes to cook is that I let them cook slowly. I noticed that they kept expanding. So you had these things that look like the the normal ballpark type hot dogs come out to be much, much bigger, longer, and people like the flavor of them. Well, again, it's a potluck. We have a bunch of food. We always have a lot of food. We always have too much food because everybody brings enough for everybody there. And that's a good idea when you're doing this kind of stuff and you're planning for it, is to bring enough for everybody. But again, that always leaves leftover food. And this man came up and asked very politely if he could have a hot dog. And I looked at him, and he looked very well put together. He's wearing his work uniform, spotless. But as I look at him, he looks hungry. So I told him it's going to take about 20 minutes for a hot dog, for him to hang out, and why don't you go in and make yourself a plate of the food inside? There was a pavilion there. He was hesitant. He went in. He was warmly greeted. People told him what was there, made sure he got a plate, made sure he got silverware, got him set up. He came out, got his hot dog, and happily sat down and ate. And I have to look around today and quite honestly wonder what the hell is going on. We made the decision to help this person. You can make a decision not to help people. Why would you? I honestly do not understand, if you have the ability to help somebody, why you do not. I don't understand why so many people want a world to be uncaring and cruel. It makes no sense to me that we would choose to do that. And it is a choice. If you have enough to share, you are choosing not to. Now, I'm not talking about putting yourself at risk of having issues with your own food security or financial security. But I'm one of those people who would never, ever, ever be rich. I would love to have enough money to take a barbecue grill and a truckload of food to every homeless encampment I could find and just stay there all day and cook for them. It would just be uplifting to think that there is a way for people who struggle to try to get back, and there will be help for them to do so. And so, to me, I don't understand. Now, maybe it's because I was brought up by parents who were born in the 20s. And so I grew up during the 70s and the 60s. And just feel that the world could be more a sense of a community and less a sense of individual tribes fighting over resources. That's the whole point of civilization. That's the whole point of our union, right? Is for all of our states to work together for the common good. That's the purpose behind the United States. And to say we've got enough that we can share. And we do, and we had around the world. Because we could. And because it was the right thing to do. And because in one person's life, we might make things a little bit better. So it was worthwhile. And now it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. And I truly will never understand that. That's what I got for you guys this week, and I will talk to you all next week.